where one of the MPs really put it really well. If that's how you're going to reduce the Mheshimiwa, imagine she's controlling a budget of a couple of trillion.
Yes.
In the state of Minnesota. So be careful.
That are bigger than some counties.
Exactly.
It's bigger than some county budgets in
Actually,
Kenya.
it's even bigger than the country. If you look at the GDP of the country of Kenya compared to the state of Minnesota, my friend, you'll be shocked. Yeah. Can you imagine? Let me just ask. Can you imagine if this particular situation happened during the Biden or Obama administration? People would have rolled over. They would have had them for dinner. Exactly. So the state of Minnesota right now is actually going to continue holding town hall meetings to talk about, executive orders and what we need to do as they continue to rain down on the state.
Like, Kasongo.
Yeah.
Why you have to compare him to Kasongo?
Okay. No, I mean, just president.
So state representatives are basically like Kenyan MCAs functionally. Is that an accurate statement?
I've heard that time and time again. And this particular issue was debated on the Kenyan parliament where one of the MPs really put it really well. If that's how you're going to reduce the Mheshimiwa, imagine she's controlling a budget of a couple of trillion.
Yes.
In the state of Minnesota. So be careful.
That are bigger than some counties.
Exactly.
It's bigger than some county budgets in Kenya.
Actually, it's even bigger than the country. If you look at the GDP of the country of Kenya compared to the state of Minnesota, my friend, you'll be shocked.
That's true.
So going to that question, we are comparing oranges and apples. Our structure here in the U.S. Political is very different from Kenya. Like Kenya, you have members of parliament, and then you have, obviously, you have the president. Then you break it down all the way to women reps, then you have the MCAs, and then you have the ward, Sijui Nini, and then you have the all of these things all the way to the area chiefs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so we don't have all of those stages here, and so it's really up to whoever.
So the governor is basically controlling a budget that's way bigger than Kenya, probably even way bigger than the whole of East Africa.
Exactly.
State is like a country, right?
It's like state is its own individual country. But then again,
governor is like Kasongo.
Yeah.
Why you have to compare him to Kasongo?
Okay. No, I mean, just president.
And then Slay here is asking, I also want to ask if you have met Jasmine Crockett. I know she's a Texan and African American. Just a curious question.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Obviously, my jurisdiction is the state of Minnesota, and she is at the federal level. But I think the fact that, her name has been brought up speaks volume in terms of what she's doing and how vocal she's being. And I think a lot of those Congress folks needs to be more vocal about what's going on in our country unapologetically. Because the other side is not apologizing.
No, they're
anything.
not.
If anything else, they are crossing boundaries on top of boundaries.
They're transgressing, all kinds of boundaries.
Left and right, and nobody's holding them accountable. So to get somebody who's very vocal about it is refreshing. And I think she's a great example of how, the rest of Congress, if you truly took an oath to protect this democracy, you need to speak up. And that's what she's doing.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Good.
But can't you invite them? I saw, was that Bernie Sanders and AOC. Somewhere,
yes.
Mm-hmm. So can you invite those to come? I mean, having a district that is 33% Africans.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something to think about.
So great question. We at the state of Minnesota are leading the country in terms of mobilizing around, sounding the alarm. I think it's too late, whatever the case might be, but at least we are doing something. We are waking up, right? So Governor Walz is going around the country, holding town hall meetings, sounding the alarm. I personally don't know what his ambitions are, whether he wants to run again for president himself in 2028. I don't know. 2027, I'm not sure. But the goal right now for the Democratic Party, which is now being led by our state DFL chair, Ken Martin, he just won that seat. The goal is to bring the party together and mobilize around one common goal. And that is to start making noise around what is going on with this administration, all of the different really platform issues that are being infringed left and right with no accountability at all. We are looking at our national security and the signal gate. Now they have coined it, right? How do we sit here as a country? Can you imagine? Let me just ask, can you imagine if this particular situation happened during the Biden or Obama administration? People would have rolled over.
They would have had them for dinner.
Exactly. So the state of Minnesota right now is actually going to continue holding town hall meetings to talk about, executive orders and what we need to do as they continue to rain down on the state. This summer, we are going to be intentional about going around the state, drumming up support for candidates. And again, let me remind everybody that this role is only 2 years. That's not a whole lot of time to do a whole lot, So again, going back to my biggest challenge as I stepped into this role is managing expectations. And so I will start campaigning in the next couple of months here already, right? And so I'm trusting and hoping that, as a party, we need to, come together and figure out what it is that we want.
Okay.
Start looking at, who we are fronting for 2027. And really not even the 4 years, not even the presidential elections, the general elections. We have midterm elections coming up.
Yes.
What are we doing?
Yes.
We need to prepare, start now. We don't want to wait until last minute. That's now when we're figuring out who wants to be a candidate for that role.
Yes.
No, that's how we lose out.
Yeah, we need to start preparing early. And